Hello. All right, so just testing the stream out because it usually freaking sucks. I was just looking at my quality. I'm like, bro, this has got to change. This has got to change. So yeah, let me. I'm just kind of testing this out, seeing how this looks. Got Young Midoriya from My Hero Academia. Some interesting stuff happened this week. Uh, I found some money in an old account. That's pretty cool. So yeah, that was pretty cool. And I'll probably do something stream about that. Yeah, coming up pretty soon, or at least probably a pre-recorded joint coming up pretty soon. Just talking about. Um, Hold on, let me test sound. Oh, it works. Okay, great. Yeah, probably do something to see if I can. Oh, hold on. All right, sorry. I was like listening to myself, and I'm like watching the quality of it. This doesn't look too bad. So let me get some code up on the screen. Actually, let me just get GitHub. See how that looks. But yeah. So I'll probably do a stream about that pretty soon. In terms of like what happened, but it was pretty funny, man. Like I woke up one more. I woke up. I think it was Tuesday or Wednesday morning, and uh, got this email, and I was like, oh, I have coin. I have a balance in this account, and they were like sending out a reminder because I hadn't logged in since 2018, and let's just say I had a good amount of Cardano in there just sitting, and pretty much it went up 18x, so or 1800%. So that was that was something special. Now I'm not sure why. Oh, okay, that's why. I was like looking at the stream and wondering why it's not catching up, but I had paused it. Okay. Alright, let's test this out here. Let's see how code looks on this thing. It doesn't look horrible, but it doesn't look good either. No, actually, it does look horrible. Let's I guess play around with the settings on that. All right, give me probably change this into like a different name because this ain't no live coding going on. using Streamlabs for this. My coworker's been telling me about it. So, finally getting on it. I had it before, but I wasn't doing anything with it. Okay, let me see if see what my settings are so I can improve this. App Store, editor. Alright, so okay, lock the aspect ratio, capture cursor, desktop duplication. Okay, done. Okay, I can add a source, like a camera. It's a video capture device. Source, capture device. Oh, okay. Let me turn on some light here. So you can see thine visage, thine visage. Deactivate when not showing. Okay. Nice default color space, done. Okay. Okay, cool. Oh, it's still kind of dark. All right. So this stream is going to be a test stream, guys. I just want to test this type of stuff out. I mean, I'm liking the color. It looks a little. It's sad to say this does look a little bit better than what I had before. Video capture device. All right, now I'm trying to see if I can up the quality on this sucker. Highlighter. Grow. Okay. Pop out and filter. Alright, so get rid of the mini feed. That's not necessary. Toggle selective recording. Test widgets. Open performance window. Your stream quality is good. Well, it doesn't look like it. Don't have any notifications. See your folder. It looks like I'm uploading at 2.6 megs. It's not so bad. I don't know if that's good. Do you have any? I don't have any notifications. I just don't know why everything sucks, man. All right. Well, let's do a stream with this. see what we can do here and see how this looks. I don't think it helps that I'm also watching this on my phone, but I want to test a couple things out here. See how this all works. Oh, as always, we should start off with a little piece of art. Okay, this is nice. It's Star Wars Battlefront. I saw a picture earlier today that was pretty good. A She-Hulk. Okay, that's cute. This Joker. This one was cool. Lost. This one is by .Ye. And I mean, something, this is like old school, elegant, epic, you know, the heavens and earth, the angels and demon, creation of the universe, the mystic, the, not the esoteric, but, you know, the mystic, if anything. So this one's actually, I actually like this one. And looks like she's cradling a cat. So that's something, huh? But yeah, I definitely like this one, and see how I like how this flows, or you know, flows together. And there's just so much to quote unquote discuss. There's like war. There's kind of like the holy feminine. I don't know. This BGS's realm right there, but you know, you got the horse, which could be one of the four horsemen, or the horse, one of the four horsemen horses. So it could be that. Then you got flags of war and battle, swords. You got a knight, female knight. This is all females in this, by the way. So one thing I did notice about that. Yeah. So, and this person has like some other pieces too, and they all follow pretty much the same theme. Even his Sailor Moon, during that trend, is a little bit more on the I guess the, not medieval, but oh man, there's like Castilian or something like that. I forgot what it is, man, but I forgot what the art form is, but essentially it's kind of gruesome, but there's like, it shows like a little lack of, shows a bit of depression. Oh man, not depression, but it's sad. And it'll show things like wounds and stuff like that. So yeah, I don't, that's not my forte. So, but I thought this was actually a pretty good person's page here. But .Ye, so that was pretty cool. And you got this. That looks like the chick from what's it called? From My Hero Academia. You know, one thing I do want to discuss is like serverless, man. So I had to do a bit of a dive into it because I was interviewing for a job, and you know, they were talking about serverless, and this gentleman and I had a pretty good conversation. Supposed to be 30 minutes. It lasted like 52 minutes, and we were just kind of talking, but a lot of back end stuff, technology, and things like that. I thought it was a pretty cool talk, and it was a lot of stuff that I haven't seen or gotten into, and I thought it was pretty interesting. But talking about like serverless and, you know, design, a phrase that how I like to call it is a So you have all these microservices, right? And with these microservices, essentially you're getting closer and closer to just writing a single function that does one little thing. It gets spun up in Lambda, does what it needs to do, and then dies, right? And it's like, you know, okay, for you to actually, you know, do something and it be fast, or not even be fast, but it actually produce some type of output or something like that that you can use with your business logic and what have you, that's got to be a pretty big function after a while, right? Like something like that is not going to be some 10, 15 lines or something like that. That's going to be maybe like a whole function might be like a couple hundred lines or something like that, you know, just for one function. And, you know, for some code bases, that's not abnormal. Maybe you want to split it up, and then of course there's other things that you might have in it. It might be just one big anonymous function, right? Your whole app or JavaScript, whatever it is, your logic is wrapped in one big anonymous function. Ship that off to a Lambda. Lambda executes and does whatever it needs to, and then just dies after that. Your Docker Swarm, Kubernetes, all this other stuff. So essentially, with serverless, what it's all about is somebody else manages most of the servers for you, or manages the server infrastructure. So infrastructure as a service, and essentially all you're doing is just writing code. Like, you don't have to worry about any of the other stuff. You just consume the different APIs and service offerings and things like that the service provider or the vendor provides you, right? So it's like, that's really it. There's nothing much else to it. And you just write the code, and then you just deal with some of the things that you classically had control over, like, for instance, state management, and making sure that data is written, making sure that things actually do execute and there's no issues. Besides that, so it's stuff like that. Making sure that, hey, listen, if you have a message queue, that you're handling things in batches, possibly. And then even with batches, you handle things with concurrency, or batches have to be done in a first in, first out model. So there is an order to things. How do you handle that? And how do you return things appropriately, or in the appropriate order? So you'd be using things like, different queue service, whether it's Rabbit message queue, Kafka, or Apache Kafka, or Amazon's offering, which would be SQS, so the simple queue service, and then SNS, the simple notification service, and using those in tandem to build a system where you can actually use a system where you can handle your messages, and if there are any problems or anything like that, you can say, okay, I need to kill this message, or it's a dead message, and then what does your business logic and code do to handle all of that? Making sure that you're using things like your finally block, even or along with after your catch block, so that you can always check if there's a problem or not, and then write the appropriate logic to handle that error. So I was going into that, and it's like, okay, all that stuff is handled by a third party, right? A vendor outside of your reach. But then it gets kind of complicated, right? Because, you start consuming these different services, and now that you're consuming these more complicated, high-performance services, now you have to start writing code to check for errors in different ways. It's not like your same thing was like, if there's no database connection. Now you have to deal with stuff where it's like, okay, you have to wait for it to actually write. And then if you're dealing with geo-replicated data, then you have to wait for things to write in multiple places to where it's going to be totally available. So it's like you got to deal with stuff like that now, right? And it's like, how do you deal with that? I was watching a talk a while back from a guy in Disney, and how they had to tackle it and deal with that. Let me actually open. So, move that over here, go there. All right. Where is it? Amazon system design interview? Huh, okay. Probably watch something like that. So there's a really good talk on DevOps, and it was a guy from Disney. Let me see if I can find the video. I thought it was a pretty good talk. Man, it's pretty old too. But one of the things, I'll just find this off screen. One of the things that the guy was talking about is that, working at Disney, he had to deal with, okay, a file says it's written, but that does not mean it's actually written and replicated to all the different endpoints. And then, of course, is it accessible too? So, like, has it been written? And then, if it's been written, is it actually available? Has it been processed by DevOps? Has it been processed by any of the backend services that you're consuming or the vendor has that goes through everything? So I thought it was a really good course, or not a course, but I thought it was a really good talk on that. But I will be posting something in the chat here. Oh, that's another thing. How do I talk to people? Oh man, I don't even know if you guys are like talking to me. Well, probably not. You usually don't have many people. Oh, okay. Along. Sorry, man. I can't see. I couldn't see the chat, man. You did that like. Oh, okay, it's only 3 minutes ago. Is it more secure? No, that depends on you. It's not more secure, less secure. It's all about you're still gonna have to actually secure code and the execution of it. Really, it's more about well, you can say that fundamentally it's less secure because it's out of your hands. You don't handle the server that handles all of the what's it called? All the different all the data transfers. How do you know that it's actually transferring data in a secure manner? Like things like that you have to worry about. And then making sure that it's encrypted end to end. At some point there is going to be your data is going to be done in clear text or available to another service. So maybe you want to actually add data encryption over what the over the transport mechanism that the third-party vendor uses. So SSL everything between all your different services and APIs, or some type of TLS or something like that. So it's not more or less secure. It's really how you use it. You still are in control of, or you still do have some bit of control in terms of what of how you actually secure that data. So let me open up. Let me open up this chat. So I'm just using new software, guys, and I want to get better quality finally, in terms of like I want to get better quality in terms of a stream. So I don't know how I'm gonna actually post. Like I'm gonna have to read up on Streamlabs and how that all works, and what I can do here in this case. But yeah, in terms of security or continuing on with that, it's not more or less secure. You're gonna have to still do all the other things that are necessary to make sure that it is actually secure. That's still on you. In terms of simplicity, there is some simplicity because all you in a sense have to do is write code. But then you start to get into things like microservices, and do you really need this type of service abstraction? Like, do you need to have somebody else hold it? Do you want to move away from a monolith? Do you want to move away from? Do you want to have a whole bunch of microservices, little things handling either one piece of functionality, or is it a couple of different functions that handle a lot of different functionality that you have to work with and deal with? I think I said that wrong. The point I'm saying, or the point I'm making, is when you have microservices, it's nice. It breaks things up and it also allows for scaling. But then I think about like, okay, you get too micro. In networking we have what they call spaghetti VLANs. Again, this is my surface level knowledge, so let me put that disclaimer there. There's a lot more that I have to learn about this, but in terms of my understanding as it is now, and as I'm like growing into this, or digging deeper, I should say, the way I see it is almost like spaghetti VLANs from back in the day. So if you ever did networking, there's a phenomenon or a issue that arises with networking where you have spaghetti VLANs. So you have your core switch. Ooh, got him. So you have your core switch, and then your core switch has all the different VLANs that go to all the different places. But what happens is usually what you're supposed to do is segment it out. So you might have trunk ports, but on those trunk ports, you might have maybe a max of 2 VLANs or 2 VLANs on one cable or something like that going out to a building. So one building might have its own VLAN and it has its own routed interface. So that segments the network at layer 3. Also, of course, at layer 2 in terms of switching and things like that, right? So your broadcast domain is that much smaller, and everything is communicating through routed interfaces. And then you at the end, at the core of all that, you have a core switch, right? And that core switch has better processing power, handles routing better, etc., etc. Spaghetti VLANs comes in when you start to have, say, for instance, you have a campus LAN or campus MAN or metropolitan area network or a large WAN or a large scale LAN. And that campus LAN, you're working on it, but in building, say you have 3 buildings. Each building has their own VLAN. But for whatever reason, you know, building a user from building 3 has to get to building, has to use the network in building 1, or get to some resource in building 1, or access some resource from building 1 that is located or on the network in building 3, right? So it's just like, well, you know, I can just span the VLAN all the way out through my core switch and allow access to one single port to VLAN 3 or building 3's VLAN in building 1. Well, what happens is, you know, this starts a cascading effect, right? You start to get where you have a little bit more, not granularity, but you have VLANs, you know, one port for VLAN 3 or building 3's VLAN in building 1, right? And then now you have a port for building 2 in building 3. You know, building 3's VLAN is accessible by building 1 or 3 or 2. And, you know, you start to have all these VLANs in all these different places. So then that starts to mess with your network segmentation. And then you also still want to, even though I want to access building 3's network from building 1, I still want to also access building 1's resources as well. So how do you deal with that? Well, you know, you can do things like VPNs between the different buildings. Also, you might have centralization, so siloing of data and things like that in these different buildings. So when it comes to something like this, it's like, okay, how do you deal with it? Because now you have, and this becomes hard to manage because now you have to track it through tickets, and you have to make sure you deprovision the pushing of that VLAN out to that port. So now, next time somebody comes in there, they shouldn't have access to VLAN, to building 3's VLAN in building 1. Only that person should have access. But your technician totally forgot it. It was on a Friday, you know? Like, but, you know, it's now you have this security vulnerability or this hole where building 1 or anybody that's connected to that port in building 1, and somebody will come by and connect to it, anybody that's accessing that port in building 1, they can get access to building 3's VLAN and data and things like that. Maybe you don't want that. Maybe that's your Area 51 stuff. That's where they're doing the testing on, you know, the future humanoid bodies or something like that. I don't know. But that creates a security risk. Like, how do you deal with that? So, so one of the things that you do, or one of the things that what this is called is spaghetti VLANs. The way I make this correlation between microservices is that, okay, you have a microservice, right? But then how micro can it get? It's micro. But then you're going to start to look at things like pico services. So now you have a service within a service, right? Like it's like serviceception or something like that. So this microservice also spawns another microservice or a pico nano service, right? So now it's like, okay, now this service only handles this like small block of code. That block of code now is like 10 to 20 lines or something like that. Whereas the overall larger microservice itself might be 100 lines or something like that of code. So now you're like, okay, well, you know, I'm splitting up all these things into different lambdas and sub processes and things like that. well, that becomes hard to deal with. Now you have your services all over the place like spaghetti, right? Everything's intertwined. You have it to where, this service can connect with this service from this service and then go back to this service, and then you have this service that connects to this service and talks to all the other services. Well, it's just like, okay, how do you deal with that? How do you manage that? How do you actually spin that up in a dev environment, and so you can have a nice pristine dev environment that you can test all your code, and you don't have to just deploy it out to your production to test there, right? It's like, how do you deal with all of that? So the same thing goes with spaghetti VLANs. After a while, you start to have to put either restrictions in place. You start to have to centralize servers or services. You also have to, like, restrictions in place such as like, oh, listen, building 1 is building 1. That's it. Well, I need a port. You ain't getting it, right? Like, that's just how it is. So now you're going to have data silos and things like that. That makes it a little bit easier for you to manage. But now, how do you handle privacy between all of those? And that makes it a little bit better. But my thought is, it's like you would have almost like a mini monolith structure. So anything to deal with users only gets handled by the user service, right? And like anything that has to deal with user profile editing or so on and so forth, pictures, avatars, LinkedIn profiles or anything else, or profile data, or user authentication, that all gets handled in the mini monolith. Again, this would just be called an app. Just real talk. I was talking to a friend about this today, and I was like, listen, I don't think I'm coining a new term here or anything like that. This is what I call it, but I'm sure this has already been out there. He's like, yeah, that would be considered basically an app that would just handle, these that one service or that class of services, if you will, right? So then you're not breaking it up so much. There is, things are siloed. Everything has their own vertical that they deal with, their own department or their own piece of the pie that they have to deal with, and then it all comes together to make some nice, cohesive, scalable service platform that you're offering to your customers, right? So you're dealing with that, or you're working on you're making sure that works for your customers. So it's like, okay, you have all these microservices, but after a while, the point of all of this is that at some point you are going to combine these back together, and you're not going to have so many microservices. So then your microservices don't become they're no longer microservices in terms of that they handle one thing. Actually, let's look up the definition of microservice. What is a microservice? So this would be a good way of like looking at it. Okay. AWS has one. Look at this first article here. Oh, I don't have permissions. Monolithic to microservices. So back in the day, of course, you had your monolithic service, and everything was siloed into like one big application or one big server mainframe or something like that. Your big irons, I think Deep Blue, I think is one. I think that's a supercomputer though. But you have these you have these monolithic servers where it's like everything is all in one. It handles everything. It has your database, it has your front end, it has your back end, and then it also has access to other vendors and stuff like that. So it's bringing in data and consuming that. So now you started to split those up where it's like, okay, your database servers over here, and your front end servers over here, back end over here, and then third party ETL, data consumption, retrieval is done on another server, and everything gets written back to a centralized database. Well, it's like, all right, cool, that's nice. But then you start having microservices, or then you started having you started scaling that back so everything had its own server. But then you start doing like a microservice almost architecture where everything is split up, but it's split up logically in code. And the code just gets ran on any server that it wants to, and then you spin up that server as needed or that service as needed. But let's get a better definition. Okay. this is not a definition. That's a way to sell something. All right. What are microservices? Microservices are an architectural style that develops a single application as a set of small services. Each service runs in its own process. The service communicates with clients and often each other using lightweight protocols, often over messaging or HTTP. So that's your messaging queues. That's your SQS. That's your Apache Kafkas or your AWS QS or AWS SQS. Your Apache Kafkas and your Rabbit MQ or messaging queue, right? So like it's stuff like that. Those are your messaging queues, and then it uses something like a REST API, now GraphQL API, and that's consumed using the transport mechanism for that is the HTTP protocol. Microservices can be thought of as a form of service-oriented architecture, or one of the most critical skills of JavaScript developers, wherein applications are built as a collection of different smaller services rather than one whole app. So usually on my channel, I'm building a whole app. That app has an index.js file that runs all the other stuff and then ties in all the third-party binaries, third-party modules and applications such as Express, Mongo, the Mongo library in terms of, or Mongoose module, so I can connect to MongoDB, and then making sure that this DB is up and running and things like that. Now, as I know of with microservices, a microservice can actually be, can have its own database structure, its own type of database, and the only way that you can actually communicate with that database or get any information from that database is via the microservice. So it acts as a gatekeeper, if you will. Instead of a monolithic app, you have several independent applications that can run on their own. You can create them using different programming languages and even different platforms. You can structure big and complicated applications with simpler and independent programs that execute by themselves. These smaller programs are grouped to deliver all of the functionalities of the big monolithic app. So essentially, it's like an ant farm. So you're splitting everything up. You have all your different ants or worker bees, if you will. And all of those, let me turn off. Get rid of this stream. All of those come together to quote unquote, form the bigger picture. Right? Like form the bigger picture in terms of producing data that people consume, like the FAT service or something like that. I can split this up into my controller, if I'm looking at model view controller, I can split it up in MVC, and then each one of those can actually be a microservice. So all my view and rendering and all this other stuff, it gets passed data, and then it passes back like it answers a GET request or something like that, and through Apache. Then I can get information from the controller side and do things from there. I look at them as mini apps, right? And that's kind of like, that's microservices, or the old way of looking at microservices. So that's like your Docker swarms and stuff like that, where you spin up a Docker container, it has the app, it answers the request, and then once it's done, it kills itself and finishes everything and cleans up. But now with microservices, you're starting to see where it's like, okay, if I have a front end, that front end is actually doing, that front end is even split up even further. So anything in terms of rendering the template or getting data or anything else like that, all that are microservices, and then they come together and then present to the actual, the end, like, the orchestrator or the requester app or what have you, and then that presents to the web server or just straight to the user, depending on if you even have a web server in front of it, proxy and connections for faster response for things like images, like I use with Nginx. Everything gets proxied through Nginx, and that serves static images and also JS files. It serves those faster and handles that faster than Node.js does, and it scales a little bit better. At least that's what I've learned, and that's the architecture I choose, or that's the way I choose to have that running. Oh, that's why I had. Huh. I like that. That's pretty cool. This is a pretty cool picture. Artists at work. I like this one. That's really cute. I'm gonna go ahead and download this one. This one is Julian Santiago, artist at work. It looks like he does 3D work. Oh, okay, I've seen this guy's stuff before. I've seen this dragon head. Oh, this looks pretty cool too. What? Scorpion boobies. Is that a dude? Oof. Sexually ambiguous. You know, insectoid, humanoid. It's cool. I like it. Where was I? Yeah, I gotta open up YouTube. Okay, I just want to make sure ambiguous questions you guys have. I'm answering it. You know. All right, great. So yeah, you know, you would have your larger apps, and those larger apps or larger microservices would handle any request that came in for that microservice. So that would be, you know, what I was talking about, a mini monolith, right? It just handles its own little piece. Or it's just an app that handles that service. That's a microservice. Now we're seeing where it's like, okay, I don't even have to do that. I just have to run this function that gets data and returns it, or processes data and returns it. And maybe I have a lot of messages in the queue, and then I need to run this function for each one of those messages because I'm starting to see where there are issues or something like that. And it's just like, well, how do you deal with that? How does that scale? How does that all work? How do you tie all those things together? How do you handle concurrency? How do you handle all these things coming in at once and making sure that it comes out in the right order? Because now I've processed A, B, C, and D, as I heard in this example earlier today. You process A, B, C, and D, but D comes before A and C comes before B, so on and so forth. And then how do you actually put all that together to where you put all that? How do you put all that together and you know you hold on, what in the world? How do you put all that together and then make sure everything comes in the proper order? And that's kind of like the big thing that, you know, is handling by, like, what service handles that and things like that. And sorry, you know, I feel some of the things I'm saying are incomplete, and I'm hoping that you know, I'm helping one or two people kind of conceptualize this a little bit more. I don't fully understand it myself, and this is why we do the research that we do in terms of watching videos, reading articles, actually doing code examples, looking at other people setting these things up and how that all works. And, you know, are you an infrastructure developer or a person like that, or are you a person that's doing mostly front end? Do you even want to do this type of stuff? So that's kind of like what I'm trying to like I'm trying to get a better understanding of who I am and where do I fit in this picture. Okay, deliver all functionalities of one bit. Okay, Microsoft microservices capture your business scenario, answering the question, what problem are you trying to solve? Instead of large teams working on large monolithic projects, smaller, more agile teams develop the service using the tools and frameworks that are most comfortable with, or they are most comfortable with. Let me slow down. Each of the involved programs is independently versioned, executed, and scaled. These microservices can interact with other microservices and can have unique URLs or names while being always available and consistent even when failures are experienced. Alright, what are the benefits of microservices? There are many benefits to using microservices. Some of them are related to how they allow your developers to write code. Others influence your architecture. Microservices are small applications that you develop, that your development team create independently. Since they communicate via message, if at all, they are not dependent on the same coding language. So let's stop right there. sometimes your microservices are not talking to other microservices. If anything, their maybe their mode of communication is another service that, or an orchestration service, director service that spins them up and says, "Hey, I need you to process this data." Well, who made this data? That question's not asked. Well, who do I send this data to? That question's not asked. All you're doing is, I need you to process this data. Okay, 2 plus 2 equals 4. All right, great. I processed the data. Cool. Store it over here. All right, cool. You store it over here. And then you say anything else. By that time, you're already cut off. Your Docker container's already shut down, or you're processing another piece of data or something like that. So you're not even dealing with the same bit of data. It's just written. And then all you say is like, hey, the result is there. And then that orchestration service says thank you, and then moves on to the next thing in that. So it's spawning its own little children and subprocesses as well. So you start to abstract yourself in terms of even having to spawn those processes, because usually a microservice might be that orchestration service. But now you're seeing more and more where it's just like, no, it's just another step. And then you might have a third-party vendor that offers the step process. Like, okay, what do you do when this happens? What do you do when this happens? There's a failure here. Okay, go back to this, or mark it dead in the queue and put it in the dead letter queue. Again, that video that I just posted in the chat talks a little bit more about that, and I thought that was a great talk. Or a great example of AWS's SQS and SNS and things like that. So I thought these were like really cool concepts. And it's like, okay, sometimes your microservices aren't even really talking to each other. If anything, they're writing the data and then that's it. In some cases, they may not even write data that the other service actually needs to know about. Like the other service says, hey, I need a user to save this data here, right? And it's like, or I need this user data that's in this database to be applied to this user object in your database, or the user services or the user microservices database. Okay, the user microservices sees that data is there and then goes from there. But it doesn't even have to directly communicate to actually get that. It could be it could just be told when you start up, I need you to check this database table and then or this document store, and then get every document out of there, process it, or even this message queue, get every message that you can out of that message queue, process it, store it over here in your services database, and then shut down. Right? And that's all you do. You start up, do whatever you got to do, and then you shut down. Like, your job in the kitchen is just to slice up onions, right? So then once that's done, you shut down. There's nothing else for you to do, right? So it's things like that. And that's kind of like how, like when it says, so since the communication via messaging, or since they communicate via messaging, if at all, they're not dependent on the same coding language. So you might have a use case or an issue, or maybe a vendor that requires you to use a language other than the one that you are used to or is standard for your shop. So you might be using TypeScript, and these people use Python or something like that, or PHP, and you have to connect to it. There's no like nice API where you can actually access it in a REST API fashion, or using REST API methodologies, right? So a GET or a POST or something like that, right? It's really like, okay, I have to communicate via some CLI or something like that, maybe, and that CLI could be written in PHP, could be written in Python, and it produces some data for me, and that data gets written out in a JSON object or a data file of some sort, what have you, right? It doesn't matter what it is, but you got to get that data, and then you got to take that data and then put it in a database or put it wherever you need to. With microservices or architectures where these services have to communicate with one another, and you have to do some type of translation or relay from one programming language to the next, it's okay, because you can write it in different code and then that code translates it for you. So for instance, I had to write something like this, but it was more of a script. And I think the script was, I'm not sure if it was Bash. Maybe it was Bash. Yeah, I think it was Bash. And then with that script, it got billing information from, we used Observium, and it got billing information from Observium. Let me look at this, repositories, let me reset this. Yeah, okay. So it was a script and collect inventory JSON. So yeah, so it was a bash script. And what it did, let me look at, let me get the raw here. And let me clean this up a little bit. Oh my God, where is this? Okay, this is not even, oh, here it is. I'm like, what? It's like, this is not what I wrote. And yeah, so it's an index.js. Here we go. This is better. With me, there's a whole bunch of joins in this, man. I'm glad I still have this code, which is pretty cool. Pretty cool. Did I get Observium config? Okay. Damn, bro, I was writing some shit, man. Ooh, 154 lines of pure fire. I love it. Observium DB credentials. Retries. Oh, okay. It retrieves it and it has to get the credentials. Okay, cool. Yeah, alright, cool. So it's not shown here. Good. Let us look and review my work. Yes. Alright, so I got Streamlabs and I got my camera up, so I just want to make sure it's not blocking anything. Is this big enough for you? Alright, so this one used Axios, MySQL, Line Reader, so I can just read through a config file. And I haven't used Line Reader ever since then, but with Line Reader I can actually get just one line at a time and read some stuff. So, or it would read this and then read, yeah, it would match like DB host, DB user, and then after that I would actually go through and get the get all this information. Because the way I used to write it is that I didn't want to hard code a lot of this stuff, and it might change later. So I didn't want anyone else. I wanted to just, I literally wanted this thing to run, and if they haven't shut the server down, which they probably have, because it's been over a year since I left that company, If they haven't shut the server down, this sucker just runs, and it will collect that data and send it over to the API. Now, error checking and all that other stuff, I wasn't even on that time. I was on straight demon time when it came to this type of stuff. If it worked, it worked. If it dies, it dies. So, this right here, function extract billing data. So I'd get the billing data, and once that is done, then I would get all the I would do all the MySQL connect and like create a MySQL create a connection to the MySQL database, and then I would have like, okay, you have your bills for everyone, or like different types of like transport or different types of bills. So you have your 95th percentile bills. You'd have your bills for transport, for peering, transport, transit, and other, right? Like, so that would be the ones that just didn't get caught or whatever, or customer based bills. And I would have to do like all these different joins and stuff like that. So I would have to get information from bills, right? And then get the bills entity ID, and then that entity ID would link to bills.bill equals bill entity ID, bill underscore ID. And then I would have to do all these different inner joins. You could do left joins, right joins, and inner joins. And I would have to collect that, and it would give me one nice query, because I had to hit so many different tables to get all the information that I needed that was relevant to the bill itself, or relevant to the port or the service itself. Like it was like a transit service or something like that. And I would have to get all this information, put it together, and then push it all out into a JSON file that's formatted like this. So I would have to put all that stuff together. I'd have to create a billing object, and I would have a whole array of those, and then that would get sent over to the server or to my main applications API. And I was able to get like Node.js installed on that server, so I can actually run this, have a little bit more robust language that I could use, so I can import modules and do all the type of stuff, and have it run on a regular basis. Or I would use cron to do this and have it run on a regular basis. So I don't know how performant this was or anything else like that, but I had to read stuff in ZFS. That was kind of like one of the things that I hard coded here. But yeah, man, this like I went ham on this, and I thought this was pretty cool at the time. I really wish I could have actually worked on this a little bit more. And I had to deal with the naming conventions of the company. So you would have ag, like an ag circuit or something like that, a peering circuit, a transit circuit. So if it matched any one of these, and you would just do a 2 uppercase, if it matched any one of these, then it would put it in its right place in terms of the actual structure, the JSON object. And then when it's all done, ship to API. So API, and then it would post, and then it would go to the target API, and then the data is bills, or the data type would be, or no, the data that was pushed was bills. So there's I'm not using much in terms of try catches, or I'm not using any catches. I'm not using any thens, because I didn't need to do anything after to where I needed that asynchronous data. It just pushed it out. So the problem, of course, would be like we're not handling errors, we're not having return objects, we're not retrying any data, we're not probably resetting this on a set interval or anything else like that. A lot of this stuff was cron based, so it would run, do its thing, get the fuck out, and that would be it. And then I had -D and -M. So for a monthly and extract billing data, it would give it the one of the keys was the period, which is daily or monthly. So it would give it that type, and then I would actually it was using MongoDB. So then after that, I would actually just key off of that in terms of generating any reports for AM charts and stuff like that. So that was pretty cool. But again, this would be considered a microservice, if you will, right? Because all this does is just collects that data off of there, and then pushes it back to the main API. It could actually push to a messaging queue. It could actually push to a file. And once that file is there, or notify the orchestrator or something like that, that this process has been completed. So it can communicate to the the overall microservices architecture or ecosystem, I should say, via a messaging queue or something like that. And then that's how I would actually go through with communicating with all the different pieces or all the different interconnected services that are or interdependent services. Let me see if there's anything here. So it can communicate. Just want to make sure, keep it on if anybody's watching or if anybody's communicating here. All right, so yeah, so microservices improve your architecture's scalability too. With monolithic systems, you usually end up throwing more hardware at the problem or purchasing expense, or I guess I meant expensive and difficult to maintain enterprise software. With microservices, you can scale horizontally with standard solutions like load balancing and messaging. So the load balancer would act as your front end, and then you could have all the different servers behind it. But the load balancer can also queue, the spinning up of different lambdas or anything else like that, or actually talk to your own maybe director or something like that. Maybe a director that you wrote that says, hey, listen, I got hit by the load balancer and it wants me to process something, and it's a pretty big file. That big file requires me to spin up this many microservices because I have this many lines, or I have this many things in my messaging queue. And then you can, with the messaging queue or SNS, which is the simple notification service, which is different than SQS, which is simple queue service. But the SNS would say, okay, hey, listen, notify this person that there's a whole bunch of messages in the queue, and then now you need to spin up all these different things. So things like that, like really, it's really cool concepts when you start splitting these things up. But then it's like, okay, where does it stop? Where does it get too complex? Also, another issue with microservices is trying to replicate that environment in your own dev environment, and how does that work? So that was actually brought up in this video, the last video, or the video that I just put in the chat, where it says like a microservice is a dumpster fire, if you will. I don't believe that, and I think it has, even the person that created it says, hey, listen, you don't need this for all of this, for your project. You may just not need it. Like for me, like you guys see, I code in Vanilla.js. I'm not using a front end framework. I looked at a front end framework and I was like, nope, not doing it. Fuck it. I'll learn it later. And I can learn it, but in terms of like microservice, in terms of like Angular, Vue, React, and then all the things that the supersets that get put on top of them, like Next, and I don't know what Angular has on top of it to make it like a little bit easier to interact with Angular. You have all these different things that can be put onto these different front end frameworks, and make it a little bit easier. But it's like, do you need that for your app? I mean, your app is less than 2,000 lines of code or 4,000 lines of code or something like that across all your different files. And like, I got JavaScript files, man. I got front end JavaScript files that are 1,000 lines, and like that's just for like an intake form. It's just like, but the business logic that's required for it's like, if this is checked, if this is not checked, so on and so forth. Then you move on to this. Then you have this error. Then you don't have that error, so on and so forth. So it's just like, I don't need a front end framework for this one single form, but I do need something like a templating engine at least, right? And the front end framework is a combination of templating engines and also programmable templating engines. So instead of like injecting stuff into the DOM, their DOM is completely programmable, and it's rendered in that fashion, and it makes for cleaner JavaScript and a cleaner overall look to everything. A more programmable, scalable look to everything, and possible cleaner overall look to everything in terms of working with different things. And you can also have things as Alang, I do see your comment. Give me a sec, bro. But you can also have things like components like buttons and things like that. All right, cool. I don't know how to get the comments on on this, so forgive me. I usually use StreamYard, but pop out event filter, super chats. Oh, I guess that's why you can see super chats, but yeah, I don't see like how I can see chats. So forgive me for that, brother. That I can't have your. You may not want it anyway, right? Excuse me. But Alang writes, that's good, Grizzly. That last code you showed can be beneficial in medical fields as well. Oh, for billing and coding, right? Excuse me. Sorry, I just had went out to dinner with my mom. But yeah, for billing, for medical billing and coding, man, like, so you can actually go into these databases, write all these different joins, and then you can actually give a person a report that, probably hits 4 or 5 different databases, and then in those different databases has all these different informations and things like that, and then you bring that all into one nice report or one nice JSON object that can be the core of a report and fill in certain things. So that's a really nice thing to actually have. But yeah, man, that it can be basically code can be used for anything, man. And it was funny, the gentleman that was it was just a screening call just to see, hey, listen, do I like you? The gentleman I was talking to, he was like, why is a network guy applying for a developer role? And then he had to think to himself and laugh. He was like, oh yeah, I was a networking guy. But when you really think about it, and when he said that, I was just like, what? Like, switches nowadays come with a Linux kernel where you can run things like grep and all this other stuff. And they have, if it's a big enough switch, like a larger Nexus 7000 or 7K switch or something like that, these motherfuckers got Linux kernels, Python, native to the application and everything, man. Like, that shit's crazy now, bro. Oh my god, let's look at Cisco and let's look at some switch porn here. Yeah. See how many ports this baby's got. Oh yeah. Okay, products and services. So networking. Let's see, data center. Data center. Okay, cool. I was watching these memes. This whole, oh yeah, that shit is so hilarious, bro. Alright, so the Cisco Nexus 9K or 9000 series. These switches, this is like, the top of the line type stuff, man. This is, the 9500. I gotta set my switch up this weekend too. But these here, their controller boards here, or their it's not, I don't know if they call them supervisors anymore. Excuse me. I don't think they call them supervisors anymore. But these suckers here, bro, and even if you look at like this, the Facebook switch, man. Oh yeah, Facebook switch. Yeah. How do I switch? No. Facebook networking switch. I don't know if you know this, but Facebook develops their own like networking switch architecture. Look at this sexy fucking bitch. Yes. Oh shit. Gotta clean my stuff later. But this switch right here, bro, this is like old, but like this, I'm sure it's like improved. But these switches here, man, like they would be this is like maybe like end of row for them, right? Like you have top of rack that connects all the different servers, and then you have end of row, and then you have edge, and then core, and then middle tier, and then core and stuff like that. Crazy complex networks, but they're creating their own switching operating system that allows data to be transported securely, low latency, and fast. But when this guy's saying this, and I mean, we joked about it, right? But this is something that I want you guys to all understand when you're watching content like watching content from me and other content creators, is that programming is everywhere. You can't escape it. now you're not just a system administrator, you're actually a developer slash system administrator. You at least need to know how to write scripts to make your job easier, because there isn't going to be a, either you write scripts or you find somebody that does. But there isn't going to be a software or package of any sort that can handle your specific business need. There just always is. There isn't always that available. So, like, if I look at something like the script I wrote, this was to go to Observium, which is a monitoring system. It's just like, yo, nobody's writing this for you. Like, this isn't just like, this isn't a big enough project where other people are writing this so that it can actually go into the database and pull this information out. Because it's not really interacting with Observium's API, it's interacting with a backend database that Observium actually writes to, and you're reading from that. But you're not gonna, you're not gonna find, this beauty, this greatness, if I might say so myself. You're not gonna find all this. That that they're gonna take the, you're gonna have to put in the host, the user, the password, the database. You have to put in all that stuff, man. I extract it and do what I need to do with it. But, and then you take all this and you have your custom, let me stop boasting here, but you take all this and you have all of your custom business logic that you put on top of it, or that consumes this data, or requirements that you might have on this script and what it does and how often it has to get this data, and what if it can't get the data? Does it write it? Does it go to this, so on and so forth? So, yeah, these things, man, this is like, you're not going to always find this. So when you have people like Facebook, Google, and things like that, they have their own switches that they write logic for. Like they actually, they're writing switch operating systems. The Cisco iOS, the old images, and now the Cisco Nexus class or Nexus level operating systems that Cisco switches are running. Like, these things have APIs that you can connect to, directors and controllers that they talk to, as well as other things, internal communications between the switch, inter-switch communication between the two switches. And, it's like, you can't, you need to be able to consume these different, just to get metrics on how your network is running and is it resilient enough and things like that. You better be damn sure AWS is either using Cisco at their core and using their API heavily with all types of scripts and things like that, as well as writing their own switch logic, if you will, or data transport logic. Like, you can have third-party software applications running on VMs that control these switches. It's beautiful, especially when you deal with things like OpenFlow. And then also, okay, how do you provision these switches? You deal with things like, having these crazy-ass YAML config files for your, or not even YAML config files, YAML-based config files for your Ansible playbooks. It's just like, bro, and you start to get into like Ansible and Puppet, puppeteering and stuff like that, or Puppet and Chef for automation. Automation and turn up of servers, services, and networking devices, bro. It gets crazy. Oh, look at this. Shit. Fucking beautiful. I love this shit, man. But I never went down that path, man, to get into this stuff more. But the more if you know Python and you're like a CCNP or CCIE, if you reach that high level, that almost doctorate level in networking or Cisco networking, or you're a Juniper person and you have some type of Python knowledge, man, you couple those, you're a fucking badass, man. Like, you're the top warrior, you're the cock of the walk there, man. Like, they're sending girls to your room because you're doing a great job. Okay, they're definitely not doing that, but hey, we can all dream. It's a good article. I can already tell it's a good article because it has nice pictures. And then this other article too. But yeah, unpacking all that and dealing with all these different things, microservices and things like that. So, yeah, not much coding going on. I mean, I I'm gonna end it there. Anything further would be me stepping off the cliff Wile E. Coyote style and not realizing I'm about to fall. So guys, thank you so much for listening. This was a test stream, and I hope it, I gotta deal with something with the quality, man. I don't know if it's just I didn't have too much code or anything up, but I don't know if it's just the I want to see how this looks. I don't know if it's just my connection or something like that, but I can't get better. So I might have to talk to somebody about this, a colleague, to where I can, figure out what's going on with this and fix this shit, because I do want better quality. And for those that, it makes people stay. So for those that have stayed with me and stuck with me and listened to me as I explain this stuff and dealt with the poor quality in video, man, I really do appreciate that. But of course, we want this to grow so we can get more information out to our brothers and sisters out there that want to learn this type of stuff and get exposed to it. Because exposure is actually is probably one of the biggest things. Appreciate it, man, and shout out from the Telegram. Hey, yeah, brother, man, I kind of missed that group, bro, but the journey must be done, man, and I had to cut off a couple of things, man. But yeah, I definitely miss talking with everybody and just exchanging ideas, venting even in some cases. I'm still definitely talking with brother Don Calypso. He hits me up on WhatsApp, but that type of stuff needs to be done just so I can actually just so I can actually get things done, man. And it's actually been positive. There's been a lot of things that have been really good. Ram Tough. Okay, hey, bro, man, I appreciate you. I don't think I've ever seen you before, man, or maybe you came once, but you good. Keep doing it. Our youth definitely need this. I'll watch the replay. Hey, man, that's motivation to me, man, because that is so true. A lot of times it's not that. I was watching this Reddit video today, right? Like, have you ever met somebody that was a genius, but they act like they didn't know they were an actual genius, right? They didn't know they were at that level. And it wasn't until recently that my good friend, my best friend's wife, actually said, like, she's like a counselor or director of counselors at her at a school in Florida, or school in Florida. Yeah, I think she's a director for that school. And she was like, "Yeah, Mike, you're actually kind of gifted." And I was just like, "Holy shit, man! I never really looked at myself like that. Even though I've taken college courses in high school and everything else like that, like I just didn't really look at myself like that, because there's a lot of times where I wouldn't keep up, but that was because I wouldn't study. But things like teaching myself how to code and then teaching it to other people, whether janky or not or wrong, I know I can make some improvements, and I have been. And I appreciate you guys, coming on the journey with me with that. But it's crazy. Or the point I'm making with that whole gifted thing is that there's a lot of people, especially our little brothers and sisters, man, that they just don't have the exposure. That's all it is. It's just fucking exposure, bro. We're not even talking about, can these kids do it? Can they actually hold up to it? Yeah, our culture does that to them, man. Our culture doesn't facilitate that. It doesn't covet that. It doesn't mold that. It doesn't motivate that. It doesn't actually allow that and water it to grow. And a lot of it is just lack of exposure. And I've seen it in now living in rural Southeast Georgia, man. Like, there's a lot of smart people, or people that would be on our culture frowns on intelligence. Yeah, and that's true. I mean, our culture really does frown on intelligence. Being an intelligent brother is not... Bro, you can have intelligence, the house, the car, the money, and any other thing out there, but if you don't have certain things that are culturally appropriate or culturally sought after, you might as well pack your dick up and go home. I mean, ain't no pussy over here for you, nerd. You know what I mean? But it's just like, that's just how it is, like, you get used to it over time. You don't like it. I don't like it. Part of the reason why I'm MGTOW. But it's like when you look at this type of stuff, man, it doesn't make any sense. But then, if I look at who my colleagues are, black people have the lower positions, the tech support, but rarely do they go beyond that and go higher. And then when they go higher, the people that are considered their loved ones and care for them, are they along with them? A lot of our youth are gifted. Oh man, totally, bro. Oh man, totally. A lot of our youth are gifted. Yeah, Daniel Tucker. Yeah, you walked into another session, man, and I'm getting to the end of this one, man. So definitely watch the playback. But I'm talking about exposure and how there's so much of our youth and our young people that are actually, and our old people that are really fucking gifted, man, and they're actually smart. But what happens is not just the culture, not just our culture in the black community, but also, yeah, this is one of my old Node.js work, but it's this this is a test stream, if you will, just to test the quality of Streamlabs and how this all works. So I'm kind of liking it. But yeah, so we look at everything in terms of our culture, and it's not just that, but there's so many like teachers that frowned upon and didn't facilitate the growth of a young black person, or black person. I'm not even gonna say the person of color shit. Black person, right? Whether it be a black person in diaspora, because I'm Jamaican, right? But like any one of these things, man, like they weren't cultivated. Now my parents, they didn't know, quote unquote, what to do with me, but what they did know, they didn't know like, hey, listen, put Mike in this, put Mike in that. Like all they knew is support Mike when he goes and does this, support Mike when he goes and does that. And that is the best they, in a sense, that they could do. And like that's not even the best that they can do. That was the best thing that they can do, because, or that they did, because I was able to figure it out. But they always supported me, gave me guidance and things like that. But it's really just the exposure. So what they did is like they said, hey, listen, man, I'm gonna get you to bat, but you're gonna have to hit it yourself. You're gonna have to hit this home run yourself. We have to focus on the creation. We have to focus on creation and ownership, most definitely. And I talk about MGTOW retirement and stuff like that, and how important it is to invest. And I even talked the other, I mentioned early on in the stream how I had an old trading account from 2017 that I haven't logged in. I was making purchases December 1st of 2017 because I looked at the logs. Literally, I invested $638, and then 4 years later, fast forward, and that was in Cardano. Fast forward, those 5,700 coins are like worth 11K today. And I did not know about this account until like Tuesday, Wednesday of this week. I totally forgot about it. Because what happened back then, again, this is exposure, right? I was exposed to the cryptocurrency market, but what happened back then was that certain amounts, like the coin wasn't worth much of anything, so I couldn't transfer anything out. So it was just like, I just let it sit there, and that was it. And I totally forgot about it. But that's one, getting exposure. That hits, multiple things that we're talking about. One, getting exposure to the cryptocurrency market. And then two, ownership, creation, ownership, and focus. Or focusing on ownership. Like owning assets. Owning things that that would appreciate. Owning things that would actually get you money and then actually sustain its value. And if not appreciate over time. And that's a beautiful thing. But it's just like, bro, like me finding that money was like, oh shit, I got a 4-year-old that I didn't know about. Like that's what I'm expecting next. That's how crazy 2017 was in the cryptocurrency market. But what happened was I had people that motivated me. I had people that helped me, that guided me along, did X, Y, and Z, so on and so forth. So there's a lot of stuff that we can expose our kids to, but that, sadly we don't. And I see it even in rural Southeast Georgia, as I was saying earlier, and going back down on that tangent. But I see it in rural Southeast Georgia where there's like even there's like quite a few white folks around here too, and they don't even know what to fucking do. They don't even know about these things. They don't know about the cryptocurrencies. They don't know about how easy it is to get into it. They don't understand what it is to invest and why you should invest. So when you hear about like Thomas Sowell talk about black rednecks or something like that. Well, okay, meet a redneck, or meet a person they consider themselves a redneck. Meet a person where For them to go home, they gonna have to jiggle some cables in their engine and probably refill the radiator with water just so they can make it home after a 10-hour shift. And I say this because I saw my coworkers do it up to a couple weeks ago when I was working my night job. Imagine some of these people, man, and some of the things that they come into. Like, you know, one of the guys became a manager while we were working, and it was just like, holy crap, it was crazy that he became a manager or a team lead. That's what it was. He became a team lead in such a short period of time, and that was working his day job, you know? And it's just like, there's intelligence in our community, man. And whether or not it's cultivated is another story, but even before that, it's not exposed to anything. You know, like, I'm talking about serverless and all this other stuff, and it's just like, yo, my company does, unless my company has to deal with it, I don't know about this stuff. I don't need to know about it. I need to know about what I'm dealing with. Anyways, I can go on further. This goes into, have you taken the time to grow today? Have you taken the time to learn something else? This is something, again, talking with our brother Lionel of Crypto with Lionel, and you know, have you taken the time to actually grow in who you are and what you do? And that's kind of one of the big things. Daniel Tucker, bro, I have 4 missing coins because I can't find my old wallet. Oh, shit. Talking 2012. It's probably somewhere in my parents' house. Bro, I'm telling you right now, I'd be in your parents' house cleaning that bitch from ceiling to floor. I'd be in the attic cleaning that motherfucker out. You crazy? Especially if it's four coin. If you talking about 4 Bitcoin, that's 200K, dude. And we talking about Bitcoin hitting 6 figures a coin, bro. Yeah, don't let me find it. Hey, in fact, give me your parents' address. I go clean out. I will be at their door cleaning that bitch. I'll split it with you. I might give you 10% of your own shit. But man, go ahead and find that, bro. But I was very surprised that finding that old account, and I bought a new sectional, which I not needed, but really kind of wanted for this for the sunroom here, and then actually went ahead and made the payment, the final payment, or on this watch here, and got that out of the way, and now I'll be focusing on some debt and stuff like that, and getting that all set situated and finished up. So getting that all done. Alrighty, brothers, sisters. Ha ha ha, they don't live in the same state I'm in, Cali. Hey, listen, bro. Listen. You got problems that are simple to solve, son. I'd be there, okay? COVID or no COVID. Mask up, okay? Get on that plane, go get that money. But yeah, bro. Yeah, hopefully your parents are hoarders and they what's it called? They keep all the stuff that they have and don't throw anything away. All right, bro. Hey guys, thank you so much, man, for joining the stream. This was a bit of a test stream, and it kind of I gotta change it. It's not live coding. It was just chat, fireside chat or something like that. I don't know. Oh, my dad most likely threw it out as junk. Oh, Jesus Christ, that sucks. Yeah, there's a lot of coins that are like that, and once they start to really do kind of quote unquote post-mortem and finding ways to see what coins are gonna touch the chain or not, or having better metrics in terms of dealing with lost coins, bro, it'll make the price skyrocket. But this is where other coins are going to be very important. Yeah, they hate a mess. Oh man, yeah. So yeah, they're not hoarders. So yeah, they cleaned up. I'm like that too, but that's because my mom's a hoarder, man. And bro, I'm a tyrant around my house, bro. With bringing in stuff. Like I look at everything that comes through that damn door, because I know with her it's gonna reach to other parts of the house, man. Oh my gosh, she's horrible with that shit. And like I cut that shit the fuck out. I'll make it back with another coin, no worries. Yeah. Definitely true, man. I think Cardano's gonna be that, and I've watched a couple of videos to be a to retire on ADA. On bull case highest, you're gonna need like 18 coins to be like almost like a millionaire by like 2030. And worst case scenario, you're gonna need probably like 39 coins or something like that. In fact, I'll put that video in the chat. I'll put this. This was pretty cool too. You know, like people that you didn't know were people that didn't think that they were geniuses. That was a pretty good Reddit video. Watch that at 2x. You can your brain should be able to handle it, guys. Definitely. Ethereum on a budget. This video was good. I just watched this while I was at dinner with my mom. Yeah, I'm a minimalist too, to a certain extent. Like I get rid of stuff, but I usually wait like a year or so, and like I'll have like a mass throwout of stuff. I'll do that in bulk, like, you know, like 1 year spring cleaning. I'll go off and just like get rid of everything. Yeah, but I've been watching this video from this guy, Invest Answers, and he does a lot of work in terms of like rating coins and, you know, putting information out there about these different coins and what they do, and then also what it's going to take for you to be a quote unquote millionaire and stuff like that. It's definitely something I'm going to be pushing a little bit more and probably doing a video on in the MGTOW retirement series. We just had a brother, pop goes the weasel on that one. We just had a brother in the MGTOW space, Vincent MGTOW, recently passed away from, I think he had not colon cancer, but he had, damn, who had colon cancer? Somebody else had colon cancer. No, I think he had colon cancer. Yeah, Vincent MGTOW, I think, had colon cancer, man. And yeah, sadly he passed away, man. And this past Saturday, the 26th. And you know, I've been talking about this. You know, he was in my comment section at one point, didn't totally understand what I was saying, and you know, we hashed it out, of course, because he's always been one of those guys that you know, you could actually talk to, but. It shows you that, you know, we need to be making these investments. We need to be talking more amongst one another about finances and, you know, taking risk and so on and so forth. So we need to be looking at all these different things, man, and we need to be very vigilant in terms of our finances and very particular in terms of our finances. And if you're not, you know, you won't even afford a dog to die alone. You know, they're just gonna bury you in the forest somewhere and let you rot. I'll watch the videos in the thread before I rewatch Fist of the North Star. Oh my god, that's what Fist. This is like what's it called? Fist of the North Star, man. What is that? Fist of the North. Yo, I never watched that anime. I've never watched that anime. I knew I remembered it. I've always seen it. Like, it's definitely one of those well-known animes. I have been watching a lot of catching up on I think I'm caught up. Am I caught up? Yeah, I'm caught up on My Hero Academia. Megalobox, I'm gonna start that probably after this stream. Pretty Boy Detective Club. I'm hoping this is like Ouran High School Host Club, which I love that anime. I thought that was like a very touching anime and that was really good. Mars Red, watch that. Moriarty, the Patriot, and this is now in English, so that I'll start watching that. But yeah, I've been watching like quite a bit of anime recently and just relaxing my mind, and along with what's it called, like the studies. I haven't gotten back on my advanced JavaScript course, so I need to get back on that. 70s animes or 80s. Yeah, those retro animes are great. I think that one, Force of the North Star, was it 80s? Published from 1983 to 1988. But when was the anime put out? Maybe that was 90s. Oh wow, 109 episodes, 1984 to 1987. and the manga was 1983 to 1988, and it had 27 volumes. But damn. Anime television series, they had a Fist of the North Star 2, which went from 87 to 88. Yeah, there's 80 animes. You guys also gotta do check out show. Have you seen Black Clover? Yeah, I'm totally caught up on Black Clover too. Black Clover's my shit. I like Black Clover. I like My Hero Academia because of the quality of story. Black Clover is definitely one of those animes that has a good quality story, real good, real feel good message in it, and everything else like that. Work hard, do better, things like that. Sacrifice is a part of it as well. But I think that I think those animes are great. My Hero Academia really kicks you in the feels a lot of times, and really like makes you root for the characters and their overall development as well. So yeah, definitely Black Clover. I love Black Clover. Kuroko's Basketball. I guess they have season 3 on Netflix finally, and I've already watched the whole series, but I'm gonna rewatch it on Netflix. And now I have like Disney Plus, Hulu, and all that other stuff. I got rid of Sling TV, and now I replaced it with Disney, Hulu, and stuff like that. So yeah, getting into that. Get back into like my anime watching, my relaxation. Need to get back into the study of that JS course though, and now I got to learn TypeScript as well. So that's gonna be crazy. Yeah, you know what? You have to understand, bro. A lot of these things, just like a lot of the movies that we watch and enjoy, all start off from like written. There's very few anime concepts or cartoon concepts that go straight to animation. A lot of this stuff is written, or like even Boondocks. How that was a comic strip. Garfield was a comic strip for years. I think maybe even the Simpsons at one point. I don't remember, but a lot of this stuff starts off as written, and then it grows from there, and then it gets animated or brought to the little big screen, if you will. So a lot of this stuff is all manga first, and then it then it becomes what's it called, an animated series. And then a lot of people, I don't have the patience for the manga to read through it and everything like that. I'm not a person that likes reading, unless it's like a small article. I need it to get to the point and give me the information that I need. I don't need all the fucking fluff and all this other shit. I need the too long didn't read version, the TLDR. So that's why I'm not really good with manga, and that's why I like animation as well, because it actually gives you a better visual representation of everything. But yeah. TypeScript and JS are the same. ECMAScript, you'll learn TypeScript with ease. Yeah, so it's a superset, right? Like it's a superset of JavaScript, so it's built on top of JavaScript, but you have typing, or it's a type-based language. So you can say, you can define variable schemas, if you will. So like if you have an object, you can define what they call an interface. That interface can define like what each key in that object is or takes, or what type of data or variable it is, or data structure it is. So if it's an array, if it's a string, if it's a number, it's a strong typed language. So yeah, definitely, I don't think it'll be a problem. I just have to understand the I want to say idiosyncrasies, but I want to see I have to understand the nuance to it, the things that it's like, okay, how do I make this performant? What is the right way to write this? What is the best practices and stuff like that? So, but I do like it because if I look at something that I write, Nano server, and I think it's view public JS fat form account. No. Let me bring up this example of the beauty of something like TypeScript or type-based language. Yeah, I think it's a fat. Damn it, I keep on going into fat, but no, I need to go to my gist. My gist. So this is my ClickUp gist here. And so all this if type of string, like all this error checking that I have to do for this function, like you know, if non-empty object, like if it's an empty object, like is it array? I might still have to do this, right? But I can define if it's an array already, like because it's already gonna handle that by just typing it as an array. Like say, okay, is type array, and that's it. You know, and kind of the way you write that in terms of writing interfaces. So I could do an interface variable var schema, and I like to consider a schema because you're defining the shape of that object. Key 1, and then you could say you can give it its whatever it is. So like if it's a Boolean, K2 it could be type string, and you know, so on and so forth from there, right? And then you have like your function, and then in that function you could pass the var schema in terms of like the interface. Or I think you this part I don't know exactly, but I would assume you press like your variable, and then you could say var schema is the type that you have to deal with. Actually, we can look that up using. Ooh, look at this cool picture. Ooh, the Dragon Lord. Wasn't I supposed to end this stream? Thanks a lot, guys. Appreciate it. Jackasses. You make me learn more. And get pictures. Using interfaces. And the crazy thing is, with TypeScript, it gets converted to JavaScript anyway. And TypeScript doesn't have async await, so it deals with asynchronous calls like differently, and it writes that out like all weird and screwed up. But essentially, it compiles all your JavaScript or translates all your JavaScript to TypeScript, and you go from there. Creating and using an interface in TypeScript. So you have your interface, so it'd be logger. So message string goes to void, and I forgot what void means. Essentially, like that's if you have something that returns something you don't really care about it, you can just send it off to void. So const logger logger. Cool. Okay. Oh, there we go. That's how we use it. So this is wrong. So I have to let variable and then var schema, and then actually define it, and then define all the things within it, like key 1, and that has to be a Boolean, so true. Or if I put in if I put in like A or something like that, TypeScript would say that's an error because it's not the type of a Boolean. That is an alphanumeric, something like that. I apologize for inspiring growth. Yeah, thanks a lot, bro. Appreciate it. Inspiring me to use more time towards this stuff and my mouth getting drier. Reference TypeScript, ref TypeScript conversion. Indeed, it does. Reference TypeScript equals or goes to conversion. Yeah, so TypeScript gets converted. I think that's what you're saying there. But yeah, this would give me an error. And this is great in terms of like if you're using something like a proper IDE like Visual Studio, then a lot of this stuff would be caught by Visual Studio because it will understand TypeScript. So then I would have to change that to true. It's annoying, right? Because it's catching your errors real time. And then this would be string. of words. Make a sentence. Okay, so yeah, and then I would pass it variable. There we go. That's the proper way to use it. So let's go back to this example. So here in this example, you define your interface or your schema, as I like to call it. Oh, you don't need an equal sign. Okay. Don't need an equal sign. That's wrong syntax. Improper syntax there. So here, you define your interface, define your keys within your interface, and then message. Oh, you're saying. Okay, I was saying that. Okay, all right. I thought maybe I read this again and I was like, okay, maybe he's referencing void, but okay, yeah. Yeah, so TypeScript gets compiled to, or gets converted to JavaScript eventually, and I have to see that and see how that all works. But essentially, you'll have your .ts file, and then that .ts file will get compiled by TypeScript to a .js file, and go from there. But that's like, you have your source code file, if you will, and then it compiles, and then it puts everything in there for you. Yeah, man, I'm trying to keep up with you, Daniel. All right, so so let variable var schema equals. So like I reference my interface here, and then by referencing my interface, then I can put in all my different options in there. And then you can also, like, I think you can make it actually strict. That's another thing. It's a strict typing language. So you can actually make it to where it's like these things are required, like the log key is required, or might be required, or you could say it's not, or you can actually be loose with it and say, hey, listen, this can be a type of any, I just need it to be there, period. So that's another thing. But I'm learning that, and this is other stuff that I'm like trying to get used to, or that I'm gonna need to get used to. Hopefully I get this job. That'd be good, because I'm asking for like $57 an hour on that. And I mean, hopefully I impress the guy enough to where it's like I can actually pull that down, or we can start negotiations from there, and get my pay back up to where it was in terms of the money that I used to bring in when I lived and worked in Florida. But all right, cool. No more growth. Okay. Okay. Daniel's got something now. All JavaScript does is add use strict in the file. Yeah. So that's something that's at the top, and I have to understand a little bit more. It's kind of syntax candy at that point. Okay. I mean, I understand that type of stuff, like syntactical sugar, so like all the other stuff that you season onto it in terms of making things easier, or also making things work in a design fashion. But one of the big things in TypeScript is that, or one of the big things that you avoid in something like TypeScript is I don't have to do all these crazy checks. I don't have to do all these crazy checks and if statements. Like, honestly, a lot of this stuff can be defined if I had a proper interface. Wagwan rain. I gotta look that up. I don't know what the hell that means. Oh, Wagwan. That's how people spell that? Oh, man. That's how people spell Wagwan? Wagwan? That's how you spell that? Hey, man, I would never, bro. If that's like Jamaican Wagwan, this is how we would spell that in Jamaica, like, or in like group chats or something like that. Wagwan. Like, we would spell it like that. I don't know. I guess it's a term. Wagwan. But yeah. So you don't have to deal with like all these different checks, because a lot of this stuff is going to be handled by TypeScript itself, and making sure that the variable or whatever the data structure, whether it be an array or object, all the elements within that data structure match the interface or the schema that you presented or the type that you actually give it. So for instance, you can do this with a function. So I can do variable, and if I wanted to, like, I get rid of all of this stuff here, right? I can just say variable. Did I press the insert button, man? Damn it, I think I pressed insert. Variable string, and that's how you would define that. Wagwan Dragon. I don't understand that. I don't know what that means. But yeah, that's how you would define a string. Yeah, Daniel, what does that mean? Bro, send a link, bro. What does that what does that mean? I looked it up on like Urban Dictionary. Bro, yeah. Oh God, not Notepad++. Hey man, that is a proper IDE. Notepad++. You put a .js on this. It's gonna do text. It's gonna do highlighting for you. It's gonna do syntax highlighting. Talking trash, man. You slide through, have different sides and stuff. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? Right there. All types of stuff. All right, guys. Thanks as always for listening, man. Turned into a bit of a ramble at the end, man, but I do appreciate that, and it's good to always interact with you brothers in this fashion, bro. This has actually been a really cool stream. It's Reg N. No, sir. It isn't. What? Bro, this is a proper IDE, bro. Get out of here, bro. Bro, they got Sublime Text Editor, bro. Like, Sublime Text Editor, this is like a cheaper version of Sublime Text Editor. You need to convert to the dark side. VS Code. I do have VS Code on here, though. Yeah, I do have VS Code on here. And I think I got this set up to where... Do I have it to where I can do high contrast? Yeah, I can do some new section. I don't know. Yeah, I think I had either this one or probably on my other computer where it's actually set up with an actual text highlighter and everything, or a theme, a non-standard theme. Interactive, redefined code editing skills. Okay, shit, it's kind of cool. But yeah, I'll probably have to be doing this on my next job, is using VS Code. Actually, I got to convert a lot of the code base that I work on. I got to convert it to actually be usable in a development environment. So I got to do a lot of if dev, if this, so on and so forth. So, yeah. All right, guys. As always, thanks a lot for listening. Really do appreciate you all for this test. And hopefully I can get it to where this is going to look a little bit better in terms of quality. But really do appreciate the chat. Thanks, Daniel Tucker, Along, Ram Tough, all the other brothers watching and listening. I know Richard Dixon, I know you're out there, bro. If anything, you're going to catch the playback. Jermaine, Miguel, all my brothers, and colleagues and things like that, man. I really do appreciate you all for joining me and everything else like that, and dealing with quality and stuff like that, and the rambling. I'm done. Have a good night, Young Grizzly. I'll leave you be. You know what? Hey, man, for Daniel Tucker, just put this up here, man. We're just gonna close it with a little bit of Notepad++ beauty in all its glory and whiteness in non-dark mode. Enjoy the shining light as it burns your retinas. Peace, my brother.